European Research Group. She also resigned as a parliamentary private secretary in the Department for Education last week in those batch of resignations. Welcome to you indeed.
Thank you very much.
Where do you think we are in this whole struggle for Brexit, battle for Brexit?
Well, it's been a frustrating weekend, I think, as more and more colleagues have sat down to read the extremely extensive tome and realised just how many problems there are with it in terms of it actually delivering a real Brexit where we are once more sovereign to make decisions for ourselves. It's the opposite of that. And I think more and more colleagues have been on the phone to me over the weekend saying, goodness, this seems inconceivably bad. And willing, though, I think, many of them, the Prime Minister, to listen, to have heard the frustrations from so many last week and to go back and change it.
Do you think a vote of confidence would help at this stage?
The whole question about letters going against Sir Graham is a very personal one. I think, I'm a new MP here. I've watched it from the outside in years gone by, and I think it has to be a question of individual conscience. If more than that requisite number go in, so be it. But I think the challenge is for every individual, first of all, is to get to a point where they feel that they can no longer be heard, and I think that is a number that's growing.
Well, you're a member of the European Research Group. Have you sent a letter in?
I sent in one letter last week, my resignation. I think 1 a week's enough for now.
Well, it's a new week. You're going to say.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Where would we put you? Definitely not.
I think it's something that every MP should always consider. It's always interesting when you talk to the Labour Party, who say, we're so frustrated when we can't, get rid of our leaders. You, at least in the Conservative Party, have a mechanism which, whilst it is brutal, does mean that if the voices just cannot be heard anymore, they will use it.
What would it achieve, though? To have a leadership challenge?
The question is whether the Prime Minister can no longer hear her party's voice and those who are speaking up for the 17.4 million who asked that we leave the European Union. I don't believe this withdrawal agreement does that. I hope very much that she will have heard that and take out particularly the Northern Ireland backstop, which is an unnecessary part of that agreement.
You see, the problem is Mrs May yesterday, speaking on Sky News, she said, first of all, we are going to leave the European Union next March, so that's that side of it.
Well, the 29th of March date is hopefully not going to move. That's set in law.
She also said that it's too late to change the withdrawal agreement, but she did say that the future agreement, the future arrangements could change, and that's one of the reasons why she's going to Brussels. Now, isn't that just grown-up politics? Why criticise her for that?
Well, she continues. The next stage is that political declaration. At the moment, it's a relatively short document, which no doubt will fill out. But the withdrawal agreement, that treaty, the details, the protocols
it's
that
just
are
for
the
a transition, isn't it? What?
Yes, but if you look at what's in there, the extensions, the sovereignty decisions, the decision-making processes where we cannot determine how we do things is something that is very difficult for those who are on the Brexit side to contemplate.
Are you saying there's no need for a transition period?
I think there's always going to be a need for an implementation period. They're very different things. Implementing something that's agreed, or indeed not agreed, in which case we leave on a clean Brexit.
Well, Mrs May said to the House of Commons the same thing last week. That's what she said.
Well, let's hope so. But the withdrawal agreement implies that there may well be something different. And actually, for Brexiteers, for those who are standing up for 17.4 million, it must be clear. She must make it clear to those of us who are standing up for that side of the argument that is indeed what it is.
My point is,
unconvinced.
Aren't you asking for jam today when you've got the very real promise of jam tomorrow in this withdrawal agreement?
I want to see a treaty which we sign, for the withdrawal agreement, which will be clear, which we will determine that we have control over those decisions going forwards, and there are too many things in there that don't.
And do you regret resigning last week?
No, I'm afraid that's not a difficult decision at all. At 3 o'clock in the morning, as I was ploughing my way through the 585-page document, I just felt I couldn't stand up the next day and say, I'm willing to back you, and if you can't stand up clearly for a government policy, then you shouldn't be a part of government.
How did you find being a parliamentary private secretary? A pretty boring job?
Quite the opposite. It's an absolutely fascinating job. You're acting as a liaison between your colleagues in the department. You're learning as a new MP how different departments work. I spent nearly 18 months in defence and a couple of months in education, very different departments, an opportunity to really understand the workings of government, the cogs that make it all happen.
So no letter as yet from you?
1 a week.
1 a week.
Let's see how we go this week.
It's a new week. You could write one this week.
Let's see how we go this week.
And would you like there to be a leadership contest, whether you spark it or not?
I would really like her to hear the voices that are saying that they are not convinced by what's there and be willing to improve it so that it can command the support of the House. It doesn't command the support of the House at all at the moment. OK, jolly good. Anne-Marie Trevalyn there. Mrs May is going to address business leaders at the CBI conference in around an hour's time.